behind me. Everything, everywhere I turn, there's struggle in life. All right, Jose, let's begin. Do you need to send anything out before I start the daf? Public service. I always get a kick out of that simultaneous bing. This goes on. All right, we'll say let's begin. Beautiful daf ahead of us today. Daf Gimel in Arachin. Daf Gimel in Arachin. We'll say also, in the new Masechta, so not only is it a great opportunity, of course, to go ahead and mamish like jump back in, it's also a good opportunity to get a handle on Chazara. We all know that one of the greatest challenges with the daf is going at such a fast pace and retaining everything. So it's kidai, to figure out a system. I would just tell, for example, here at the shul, we have a small little night seder right after Mincha Ma'ariv, the late Mincha Ma'ariv. So now, for example, Mincha's, what time is Mincha? 8:25, right? And there's a little night seder right afterwards, just from 8:55, I'm sure after Ma'ariv, to 9:15. In 20 minutes, you can chazer over the daf. Just highlighting, even less than 20 minutes, you can chazer over the daf. Just highlighting over. And if you do a little bit of chazara every single day, even if you're not up to date in terms of chazering that day's daf, even if you end up being a full couple of days behind, it's just amazing what it does for retention and what it does for appreciation. Because the more you remember the Masechta that you're living in, the more you feel connected to it. So just a side point. Good, so we'll say let's go weiter. Today's daf is Gimel. We are picking up Beis with Beis 2b, 3 lines up from the bottom. Hakol chayavim b'tkesha. So remember again, there's actually thank you. So we'll say our shiurim this week are, sorry, I need like a monitor or something opposite. So, I'm sorry? Cue cards, yes. So you could. So I'll say, so we have Baruch Hashem, a number of sponsorships. We have a weekly sponsor of Adam and Amy Grossman, dedicating the week of Daf Yomi. We thank the Grossman Mishpacha very much for their dedication. To thank Hilly and Eli Kagan for dedicating the shir this week in honor of the Magidei Shir Maishi Abramson, who makes it possible to learn the daf remotely. Talmud Torah sponsor for the month of Sivan, David and Roberta Schwartz, in honor of all of the members of their shul for their incredible warmth. Thank you to all of our sponsorships. So of our sponsors. So we'll say with that, we're continuing on the exciting adventure of the Hakol. The reason I say exciting is because literally we're going through Shas. Mamish, we're going, I know people got an Arachin. What's Arachin going to be about? Look at this. It's Mamish like you just got on the Talmud roller coaster over here. We're literally going everywhere throughout Shas with this Hakol, and it gets better. Hakol chayv mitkiyah shofar. So lines over the bottom. Everyone is obligated in tikiyah shofar. So remember again, the theme over here is since our Mishnah began with Hakol ma'arichin ne'erachin nojim v'nidarin. So we tried to figure out what does Hakol include in our Mishnah. We're now essentially going through pretty much all of the examples of Hakol throughout Shas and trying to figure out what they include as well. So Hakol chayav mitkiyah shofar. So we'll say everyone is obligated to tikiyah shofar. La'asuyei mai. Well, who does that come to include? La'asuyei katan shegiya lechinuch. It comes to include a katan who has reached the age of chinuch. That's such a katan, which I will say again, whatever age that is, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, this not because we'll say the halacha is, interestingly enough, we do not prevent the katan from blowing the shofar on Yom Tov. In other words, there's a concept ultimately that once you fulfill the mitzvah of tikiyah shofar, so one doesn't simply blow the shofar for no reason. But a katan who has reached the age of chinuch, who is obligated in the mitzvah, we don't stop them from blowing the shofar. Good. Hakol chav mikra Megillah. We'll say very interesting sugya. Everyone is obligated to read the Megillah. Hakol ksher and likros es ha-Megillah. Everyone is kosher to read the Megillah. La'asuyei ma'ir. So who does this come to include? Top of Gimel. So the Gemara says, La'asuyei nashim, to include women. Uchid Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Nashim chayavos b'mikra Megillah. Women are obligated in the Mikra Megillah. Sha'af hein hayu ba'os sahanes, because they were also included in the miracle of Purim. Now I will say here we come to a profound machlokes Rashi Tosas. Take a look at the top Rashi. La'asuyei nashim. This is incredible. Shechayavos b'mikra Megillah. So Rashi says again, women are Chayv mikra megillah, uksheros likrosa ulahotzi schar midei chavasa. And Rashi literally says that a woman's obligation of mikra megillah is the same as a man, and therefore, again, technically speaking, she could be motzi a man in mikra megillah. That's what I call it. Kolcha mikra megillah afilu nashim. Tosfos, if you look at Tosfos on the left side, la'asuyei nashim. So we'll say, so Tosfos has a whole chakira about this. Just if you skip down to the last 3 lines of Tosfos, v'alochos gidolos hosifu ela shechayavin b'shmiya. So we'll say, so interestingly enough, the Halachos Gidolos says that no. When we say women are chayavos in Mikra Megillah, it is actually not a chiyav in Kriya, but it's a chiyav in Shmiya. They're obligated to hear the Megillah, not obligated to read the Megillah, which means it's a different kind of chiyuv. Lefi shakol hayu b'safek lahashmit laharok la'abed. So we'll say, so this happens to be, we actually saw this machlokes back in Maseches Megillah. So everyone will agree that nashim chayavos b'mikra Megillah. That's a statement. Everyone agrees women are mechuyavos in Megillah. The machlokes Rashi Tosfos is what is the nature of that chiyuv. Rashi says, mamish a chiyuv to read the Megillah like everyone else. The halachas gidolos, no, an obligation to hear the Megillah. The nafkamina, could a woman be motzi a man in Mikra Megillah or not? According to Rashi, the answer is absolutely yes. According to the halachos gidolos, the answer will be no, because a woman has a chiyuv of shmiya, whereas a man has a chiyuv of kriya. Just something interesting to note. Good. We also another incredible case. Hakol chayavim bezimun. Everyone is obligated in a mezumin. In other words, when we say obligated in a mezumin, meaning if you have 3 men, you're chayiv in mezumin. So the Gemara says la suyemai. So we'll say, but one second. Again, as we've already come to see, hakol always comes to include something additional than that which is stated. So hakol la suyemai, la suyei noshim va'avadim. It comes to include women and avodim. This Sangabos is actually an interesting halacha. Nashim mizamnos liatzman. Women could make their own zimun. They can make their own zimun. Va'avodim mizamnin la'atzman. And similarly, again, avodim can make their own zimun as well. The Rebbe says, remember again, why the distinction in these groupings? Look at Rashi. Mizamnos liatzman. Shalosh nashim v'chein shlosha avodim. So if you have 3 women or 3 avodim, these of course are avodim kinanim, right? Not talking about an Eved Ivri is a Jew, is not nothing to talk about. It's avodim kinanim. Aval ein shtei noshim o shtei avodim mitztarfim im anoshim. So I'll say ultimately again, here's what's interesting. So the Gemara is telling me 3 women can make a zimun, 3 men can make a zimun, 3 avodim can make a zimun. 2 men and 1 woman, or any other variation of that, cannot be mitzdaref for a zimun. Why? Because no one of these 3 groups, men, women, avadim, have the same relationship to the brachos of Birkas Hamazon. Because says Rashi is actually amazing. Lefi sheyesh ba'anoshim masha'in benashim u'ba'avadim she'in hanashim omros bris ve'in avadim omrim al nachalaseinu. Because for example, Birkas Hamazon makes reference to bris milah. That doesn't apply to women, right? But yet it does apply to avadim. Birkas Hamazon makes reference to the nachala, to inheritance in Eretz Yisrael. That applies to men, applies to women, doesn't apply to avadim. So ultimately, again, it's only men for whom every part of Birkas Hamazon thematically applies. For women, some doesn't apply. For avadim, some doesn't apply. Therefore, each of these groups have the ability to independently make their own zimun. 3 women can make a mezumin. 3 avadim can make a mezumin. 3 men can make a mezumin. But none of these groups could go ahead and interact with each other. Just as an aside, this happens to be a fascinating sugya about women's zimun. So I'll just take, again, I'm not going to get to do it justice today, but I'll just say like this. Shulchan Aruch, this is in Arachin, Siman Kuf Tzadik Tes Sif Vav writes as follows. Shulchan Aruch paskins this way. Nashim va'avadim uktanim in mizam nalein. So women, kitanim, right, children, and avodim cannot be mitzdaref to a zimun with men. Aval mizamnin liatzman. Now that doesn't really apply to kitanim, right? But they can make their own zimun. So when women can make their own zimun, fine. So the Shulchan Aruch goes on with this. The Mishnah Berurah points out an important distinction. He says, mizamnin liatzman reshus. There is a fundamental difference between women's zimun and men's zimun, which is if 3 men eat together, there is an obligation to create a zimun. If 3 women eat together, there is no obligation to create a zimun. zimun. It's what's called a reshus. So the Arachin, meaning they can do it if they want to, but there's not a halachic imperative as it applies to men. The Aruch HaShulchan, and I'm sorry, we're just going through all of this, very interesting. The Aruch HaShulchan writes, he has an extensive piece, we're not going to get to it now, but I'll just give you the Maramakom. This is Aruch HaShulchan, Arachayim, Siman Kuf Tzadik Tes Sif Beis, has a very interesting discussion of this as to why this is contemporarily not done so much. Even though it seems to be a pretty straightforward halacha, that if three women are eating together, they have the right to make a mizuman. Aruch HaShulchan writes why presently you don't see this being done. Ayin Sham. Good. Says the Gemara. Hakol mitzaref and lezimun lasuyem. So we'll say there's another statement of everyone is mitzaref, everyone joins together in a zimun. Who does this come to include? Lasuy katan hayodeh lemimi mevarchin. This includes a katan who knows who he's benching to, who he's making the bracha to. So we'll say, interestingly enough, what the Gemara seems to be suggesting over here is that almost like a katan who understands the concept of Birkas Hamazon and knows who he is reciting Birkas Hamazon towards, you could include him in a zimun. Then Rav Nachman, katan hayodeh mevarchin bezamnin alav. Good. Hakol tamei beziva. Everyone becomes tamei through zav. Lasuye mai. Lasuye tinok ben yomo comes to include even a baby. That technically speaking, a baby could become tamei through tumas zivos. The sanya, because we learned matam alomar ish ish. Why does the pasuk say ish ish, double ish by zav? L'rabos tinok ben yom echad shemetame beziva div Rabbi Yehuda. To teach you that even a baby who is 1 day old is capable of contracting tumas zav. Rabbi Shmuel ben Osho, Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka Omer. You don't need this, I'll tell you why. Hari Omer v'hazav es zovo lazochar ulenekeva. We'll say the pasuk says the zav es zovo, right? The zav who has his zav emission for a man or for a woman. A zachar and a keva. Lazochar kolshehu zochar bein katan bein gadol. Lenekeva kolshehi nekeva bein ktana bein gidola. So we'll say, interestingly enough, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, says the fact that it says Zachar and Nekeva by Zav, Zachar and Nekeva includes what? All men and all women. Kitanim, Gidolim. Therefore, he agrees in principle, not in principle, he agrees with the concept that halacha lemaisa, even a child who is 1 day old, has the ability to become a Zav. Just learns that from a different place. Imkain, matam alomar ish ish. If that's the case, according to Rabbi Shmuel, why does the pasuk say ish ish? Dibra Torah kalashon b'nei adam. Ultimately, again, the Torah is just speaking in the vernacular, right? The Torah is just speaking ultimately how people speak. So you find this explanation in a number of different places, where ultimately, again, the double lashon is just reflective of how people spoke. Hakol mitamin. So I'll say everyone has the ability to become tamei with tumas meis. Lasuye mai. What does this come to include? Lasuye katan. We'll say this comes to teach you that even a katan is capable of contracting tumas meis. Sakadai tchamina. Ish asher yitma velo yischata. Because we'll say the pasuk says, if a person, the pasuk, just to understand the context over here, this is talking about a person who became tamei. Velo yischata means, and he did not go through a purification process, and then walks into the Beis Hamikdash. Such a person is chayiv kares. So the Gemara says, ish in katan lo. I might have thought that it's only an ish, a man, an adult, who has the ability to contract tumah, but not a katan. Kamash Molan, no. Va'al hanefashos asher hayusham. So I'll say, so the fact that the pasuk says nefashos in the context of tumas meis tells me anyone who is a nefesh ultimately can contract tumas meis. Therefore, even a katan who is a nefesh, might not be an ish but is a nefesh, ultimately has the ability to contract tumas meis. Ele ish lemiute mai. So if that's the case, what does ish come to exclude? Lemiute katan mikares. Oh, well, it's a very simple idea, which is that halacha lemaisa, a katan has the ability to contract tumas meis, but if a katan contracts tumas meis and then what? Walks into the Beis Hamikdash, he is not chayiv kares. It is only an ish, only an adult, who if you become tamei and then walk into the Beis Hamikdash in a state of tumah, ultimately again experiences kares. Next, hakam tamed b'negaim. We'll say everyone can become tamei with tzaraas. La suye mai. What does this come to include, or who does this come to include? La suye katan. Comes to include a katan. Then I will say a katan could become tameh with tumas saras. Now why would I think otherwise? Saga da'it chamina ish sarua ksiv. I will say the pasuk says an ish who contracts saras. So I would have thought ish in katan lo. We'll say in general again, ish translates as how? Adult male. Adult male. So or maybe at least, even if you want to be a bit more expansive, adult. So I might have thought it's only an ish, only an adult who contracts saras, not a child. Kamash malon, that's not the case. How do you know? Maybe that is the case. Maybe ish does mean that only an adult is capable of contracting saras, to which the Gemara says, Adam kiye ba'ar b'sara mikamakom. Because most of the Torah uses lashon of Adam. Adam is an all-encompassing lashon over here. So the fact that it says Adam teaches me that even a katan is capable of contracting saras. Ve'ela ish lamli. So we'll say, so now we have a problem. If that's the case, that Adam teaches me that what? If Adam teaches me that halacha l'maisa, then halacha l'maisa, a katan is capable of contracting saras, then why do I need ish? L'chidisanya. Here we go. Ish ainli ela ish. Isha minayin. So ish teaches me that a man has the ability to contract saras. How do I know that a woman has the ability to contract saras as well? Kishu omer v'hatzarua harekan shnayim. Because also when the pasuk says hatzarua, so hatzarua adds in another category of person. That tells me that there are two types of people, i.e. men and women. If that's the case, imkeid matamulama ish. So again, I will say, if I have tzarua, then why do I need ish? To which the Gemara says, le'inyan shalmata, to teach me another important halacha when it comes to saras, which is, I will say, first wide line, gimel amad aleph. Ish porea uporeim, ve'in ha'isha poras uporem. So I will say, the halacha by mitzora is an interesting halacha, which is, a mitzora tears his clothing and allows his hair to grow long. That halacha of tearing clothing and unkempt hair only applies to men and not to women. Right? Where do we know that from? From the fact that the Torah uses the lashon of ish. Ultimately, again, even though ish is stated in the context of contracting saras, since I don't need that ish by contracting saras, because I know that men and women are both subject to saras, the ish comes to teach me that halacha l'maisa, only a man tears his clothing and allows his hair to grow long. A woman does not. Okay, incredible. Hakol ronas hanagoyim. Next, everyone has the ability to see, to examine negoim, tsaras. So the Gemara says, Hakol ksherin liros hanagoyim. Similarly, again, everyone is kosher to look at negoim. So ultimately, again, la suye mai. Who does this come to include? La suye she'ino baki b'hainu b'shmo seyin. Comes to include a kohen. Abosei. Now understand, we know that only a kohen is permitted to paskin on saras. One of the unique novelties of saras, right? You could be the greatest Talmid Chacham in the world. If you're not a kohen, you do not get to examine saras. So we'll say, so ultimately again, when you say hakol, who does hakol come to include? It comes to include even a kohen she'eno baki bahenu b'shmo seyin. Even a kohen who's not so proficient in the halachos of tsaras or the names of the various lesions. Is that true? But yet, we learned that if a kohen is not a baki, if he's not proficient in the laws of tsaras, he should not be a tsaras posek. So we'll say, so which one is it? Amar Avina lo kasha. It depends on the kohen. Ha de misabrile v'savar. Ha de misabrile v'lo savar. We'll say everything depends. Halacha l'maisa. If the kohen has the capacity that if you explain to him what the halacha is, he chaps it, then he could paskin. If you explain it and he doesn't chap it, he can't paskin. So we know this is Mefurshim Mishnah Meseches Negoim, that even a kohen ha'aretz ma'amidin lo Talmid Chacham. So again, so you can have a Talmid Chacham whispering in the ear of the kohen, right? That's this, and the halacha is it's tameh. as long as the Kohen chaps what the person is telling him, understands it, then ultimately he's fit to paskin on negoim. If mamish just doesn't possess those mental faculties, and so even when somebody explains it to him, he could repeat the information, he could parrot the information, but he doesn't understand it, then we would not have such a Kohen paskin on negoim. Beautiful. Hakol ksher lekadish. So we'll say ultimately again, everyone is permitted lekadish. Now, what does lekadish over in this context mean? Take a look at Rashi. Lekadish la'ariv mayim chayim be'efer chatos. So we'll say lekadish refers to the process of mixing the spring water together with the ashes of the para aduma. Everyone is kosher to go ahead and do this process. Who does this come to include? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Huda lasuye katan, u'v'rabbanan lasuye isha. So I'll say, Rabbi Huda says it comes to include a katan, that even a katan is permitted to mix together the ashes of the pardum with the spring water, and the Rabbanan say it comes to include a woman, that she is permitted to engage in this process. This now, because we learned in the Mishnah, hakol ksher and lekadish, everyone is permitted to go ahead and mix the ashes of the paraduma with the spring water. Chutz mecherish shota the katan, with the exception of a cherish shota and a katan. Rabbi Huda machshir bekatan uposal beisha ubandrogenous. So we'll say, so the Rabbanan hold that ultimately again everyone is kosher except for a cherish shota of a katan. So according to the Rabbanan, a woman is also permitted to mix together the ashes and the spring water. Rabbi Huda says a katan is permitted to do so, but ultimately again uposal beisha androgynous. He says a katan could do it, but a woman or a suffix woman, which is an androgynous, cannot do it. Beautiful. Hakol ksher in the hazos lasuyemai. We'll say everyone is fit, everyone is kosher to sprinkle the waters of the para aduma. It's an interesting case. So who does this come to include? So the Gemara says lasuyemai. Rashi says, not yet. Rashi says over here. So the Gemara says lasuyemai lasuye orel, to include someone who is uncircumcised. They're both saying, now why would someone be, now what kind of aral? If you look at Rashi, shemeso echav machmas mila. We're talking about over here a situation where, right, the brothers died because of bris milah, what we contemporarily know to be hemophilia, right? Ultimately, again, so the halacha says if a person loses two prior siblings, ultimately again as a result of bris milah, the halacha is that they are exempt from bris. Now, the interesting discussion, which Rabbi says has multiple ramifications, is what's the status of that person? Is that person called an orel or not? Because on one hand, they're uncircumcised. On the other hand, they have a license to be uncircumcised, right? In other words, not just a license, but the halacha tells us not to give such a person a bris milah. So there's an interesting discussion about the status of that person. Here the Gemara is suggesting that when we say a kol ksher lahazos, to sprinkle, and it comes to include even an arel. If you have an arel who ultimately did the sprinkling of the ashes, meaning an arel who's a kohen, who did the sprinkling of the ashes of the paraduma, tazah is kosher. Beautiful. Both say, listen to this. Hakol shochtin. Sounds familiar, right? All right. Opening Mishnah Maseches Chulin. Hakol shochtin. Actually, we saw it twice in Chulin. Hakol shochtin lasuye mai. Always exciting, like when you see something that you remember. Hakol shochtin, everyone is permitted to shecht. What does that come to include? So we'll say, now remember again, what the Gemara is pointing out over here is you have two mishnayos of hakol shochtin. Two mishnayos. So what do both of them come to include? So chada la'asuye kusi, v'chada la'asuye yisrael mumar. Right? Ultimately, again, one comes to include a kusi, right? That a kusi is permitted to do shchita, and one is the yisrael mumar. So also remember again, we spoke about these cases extensively about what you need. You need Yisrael Omed al Gabov, right? You need a mashkiach there to oversee that, whatever the details are. But the point over here is that the shchita of a kusi could be good, and the shchita of a Yisrael Mumar could be good as well. But also listen to these cases. Hakol ma'alin li Eretz Yisrael. Then I will say this is a fascinating case. Everyone could call. Well, let me translate it like this. Everyone could require Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. I'll define that better in just a moment. So the Gemara says, who does that come to include? Amud Beis, La'asuye Avadim. It comes to include ultimately again Avadim. Now we'll say, now from the case you'll understand the statement. Look at Rashi. Top Rashi Gimel Amud Beis. She'im lo She'im yesh lo eved Kenani mo. We'll say if I possess a circumcised Eved Kenani. So remember again, I purchase an Eved Kenani. Once I do that, there is Tevila and Mila l'shem avdus. He's immersed in a mikvah, and he goes ahead and gets a bris milah for the sake of avdus. When he becomes an Eved Kenani, he becomes kind of like quasi-Jewish, even though we don't normally subscribe to a concept of half-Jewish or whatever, either year in or year out. An Eved Kenani is that exception. He is quasi-Jewish. His full gerus is only affected when? Upon emancipation. So watch this. This is an incredible case. Tap Rashi Gimel Beis. Shim yesh la Eved Kenani mol. If I have a circumcised Eved Kenani, so limkar, and I want to sell him. V'rotza Eved shel yimkar elu b'Eretz Yisrael. Listen to this, right? You know, right? My Eved Kenani, he flipped out during Abdus. Right now, he's so stark. Right? He became an Eved Kenani, and now what? It's fine. You want to sell me? You want to sell me? I'm only going to be sold in Eretz Yisrael. Right? Only going to be sold in Eretz Yisrael. We'll say, what's the halacha? Kofin es rabo laha'aloso. We force the master. If you want to sell him, and he wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, you got to sell him in Eretz Yisrael. Incredible, incredible. So the Gemara says, "Ulamad detani avadim behedja la suyemai." So we'll say, in general, what this halacha means is as follows: that hakol ma'al in the Eretz Yisrael means that any one person ultimately could go ahead and cause the mishpacha to have to go to Eretz Yisrael. That if one of the members of the family, we're going to define this in just a little bit, ultimately wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, it obligates the rest of the mishpacha to make aliyah. Now we're going to see the context of that in just a little bit, but for now the Gemara is saying it comes to include the novel case of an Eved. I have an Eved Kenani who I plan on selling. Meaning, if I'm not selling him, and he's a piece of my property, he can't force me to do anything. But if I'm already going to sell him, he has the right to say, I only want to be sold in Eretz Yisrael. And if he says that, I have an obligation to honor that wish. Ulaman detani avadim behedja. But also, according to the Mandam who says that avadim is taught explicitly, la suyeh, what does it come to include? Listen to this. La suyeh minove hayofa lenove hara. It includes, I will say, even what? That halacha lemaisa, if I want to move, right? If the man of the house wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, wants to make aliyah, ultimately, again, even if his wife does not want to, she has an obligation to listen to him. Then I will say, good luck with this one, right? So, and if you use it, do not quote it in my name, right? Ultimately, again, you can quote the Gemara Gimel days. I will say, but technically speaking, there is a halacha on the books in Maseches Ksuvis that if the man of the house wants to make aliyah, even if the wife does not want to, she is obligated to go ahead and follow him to Eretz Yisrael. That's the halacha. I will say the novelty of the halacha is even if they live in a beautiful house in Chutz La'aretz, and what's waiting for them in Eretz Yisrael is, so you can't say it's Eretz Yisrael, aesthetically challenged, right? It's aesthetically challenged. It's not as nice. Nevertheless, the man of the house could go ahead and then essentially compel the mishpacha to make aliyah with him. Veina kol motziin. And I want to say similarly again, no one could force someone to leave Eretz Yisrael. So we'll say that comes to include that even if my Eved ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, I cannot force him to leave Eretz Yisrael. Incredible. Next, Hakol Ma'alin Yerushalayim. So we'll say there are two kind of like concurrent halachas over here. One is Hakol Ma'alin Eretz Yisrael, which means that if the man of the house wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, he could compel the rest of the family to make aliyah. Once in Eretz Yisrael, if the man of the house decides that we're moving to Yerushalayim, no one, right? He could compel the rest of the family to move to Yerushalayim. Okay, says the Gemara. What does that come to include? Minova hayofa lenova hara. Even if they live in a beautiful house in Tel Aviv, and he wants to say, no, we're moving to a small apartment in Yerushalayim, so the rest of the members of the household have to listen. Veina kamotziin, and no one could take you out of Yerushalayim. That even if again I'm living in a very small apartment in Yerushalayim, and ultimately again there's a much more beautiful house waiting for me in Tel Aviv, then halacha l'maisa, the members of my household cannot force me to. I cannot force anyone to leave, and no one could force me to leave as well. Incredible. I will say these halachos of Eretz Yisrael are really quite fascinating. We saw this extensively in Maseches Ksuvis, but really fascinating. Also speaks volumes to the incredible and beautiful relationship that the Jew has with Eretz Yisrael. Where else do you see such a concept like this? I was going to say, to say that a man says we're going to Eretz Yisrael, suddenly everybody has to listen, the shalom bayis problems that causes, the other familial problems that causes, but yet again you see something dramatically amazing about the relationship of the Jew with Eretz Yisrael. Okay? For a different time. Hakol chayavim b'sukkah. Now, both say, now we're transitioning a little bit. So now we've gone through essentially every single hakol in Shas. Now we're transitioning to a different category of hakols, which also include the statement of hakol chayavin, blank, 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 kohanim, leviim, Yisraelim. We're going to go through a whole series of these cases. It's really incredible. Hakol chayavin b'sukkah, kohanim, leviim, Yisraelim. Everybody's obligated in sukkah, kohanim, leviim, and Yisraelim. Pshita. Okay, in other words, the Gemara says, "Ihani lo mechayiv, man mechayivi." We'll say if Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim would not be chayiv in Sukkah, it's going to be a pretty sparsely observed mitzvah. Hey, so what's the chiddush? Watch this. Kohanim mitzrichalei. The truth is, I needed to state it vis-a-vis Kohanim. Why? Because I would have thought as follows. Basukos teishvu. The boss say this is fascinating. The pasuk says Basukos teishvu. This is probably one of the most important phrases in Sukkah. In Hilchos Sukkah. Basukos teishvu means you have to dwell in your Sukkah. How do you have to dwell in your Sukkah? Va'amar mar teishvu shivas yamim ke'en taduru. You have to live in your Sukkah for 7 days, the way you would dwell in your house. Madira ish v'ishto, just like in your home, you live with your wife. Af sukkah ish v'ishto. So too in the sukkah, ultimately again you have to live with your wife. V'hani kohanim hoil ubnei avodanin. Rabbi, listen to this. Since kohanim over the course of the regel are performing avoda, look at Rashi. Bnei avodaninu ve'in yucholim lador ish v'ishto b'sukkah. Sheinis kakin l'nisho sehem d'rami alayvas. Rabbi saying, obviously, living with your wife is a euphemism for relations. Interesting, if Rashi points out over here, the Gemara points out that Kohanim really wouldn't be with their wives over the course of Yom Tov all that much. Why? Because they were on call for the avoda. Now remember, I want to be clear. Even if a Kohen even if a Kohen ultimately is on call for avoda, so remember again, if he's with his wife, there's tumas keri, but ultimately again, even that is a very, very, very low level of tumah that can be remedied very easily. Rashi just seems to be pointing out over here it wasn't common, since again over the course of the regel there was such an intensity of avoda. Very often Kohanim would not live with their wives in the regular way. Therefore, again, I would have thought, Rabbi say, watch this. The mitzvah of sukkah is teshu kein taduru. So it's to live in the sukkah like you live throughout the year. So therefore, again, ultimately, again, a man is in the sukkah with his wife. Kohanim who are not normally with their wives so much over the course of the Yom Tov, I would have thought as pater from sukkah. Kamash malon nehi diptiri b'shas avoda shelo b'shas avoda chiyuvi mechayvi. Even though a kohen may be pater ultimately again during the times of avoda, when it's not the time of avoda, ultimately again he is chayiv in sukkah. Midi dahavi ahoche drachim. He's no different than a traveler. What's the halacha of a traveler? The Amar hoche drachim bayom piturim min sukkah. We'll say people who travel by day are pater from sukkah. V'chayavim balayla. So we'll say, so just like if a person's traveling and they have a reason that takes them out of the sukkah, they are pater from sukkah. But when they're not traveling, they're chayiv in sukkah. So a kohen, when he's not doing the avoda, when he's doing the avoda, he's pater from sukkah. But when he's not doing the avoda, ultimately again will be chayiv in sukkah. Therefore, the hakol comes to include kohanim, because I would have thought, this is interesting, there's a havamina that kohanim would be pater from sukkah. But I'll say, this halacha is also important for a different reason. It's interesting to note that it's a mefurish halacha that you're supposed to sleep in the sukkah. Mefurish halacha, teshu kein taduru. Yet it is fascinating to see that contemporarily, many people, especially in chutz la'aretz, are very makel on this and do not sleep in the sukkah, even though it's mefurish halacha. So what happens? So the Arachin actually discusses this, and he gives two reasons. He says because historically in chutz la'aretz, especially in Europe, he says sukkahs was very often already like winter season. And as such, there was a din of mitzta'er, that meaning it's only Eretz Yisrael that is guaranteed to be warm, and Baltimore, right? It's guaranteed to be warm, right, during Sukkot. So therefore, again, in Chutz La'aretz, very often it was winter time already, and therefore, people didn't sleep. The other reason, and therefore, again, people didn't sleep in the Sukkah. The other reason he also gives is because this idea, there's a concept ultimately by Sukkah of Teshvu Ke'in Taduru. And just like in your house, you sleep together with your wife, so in the sukkah, there's also to have the ability to sleep together with your wife. He says, so because very often either we don't have sukkahs that accommodate that, or a wife might not feel uncomfortable doing that, therefore halacha l'maisa, kind of over time it developed a kula to sleep inside of the home. Just an interesting application of this concept. Okay, the Gemara goes right there. Hakol chayavim b'tzitzis, kohanim levim Yisraelim. Everyone is obligated in tzitzis. Kohanim Levim Yisraelim. So Pshita, okay, I got it. So obviously I read it. Kohanim Yisraelim, Gemara says, no, Kohanim Yitzrichle. Kohanim get a lot of attention today. I need this for Kohanim. Why was this incredible? I would have thought, Choluksiv, Lo Silba Shatniz Gedilim Tasalacha. Both I remember again, there's just juxtaposition between the mitzvah of tzitzis and shatniz. Right? Now, the nature of that juxtaposition is to teach you that what? Tzitzis could be shatniz. Right, you could make tzitzis, so you could, for example, you could have a woolen baguette and linen tzitzis. We don't do this today anymore, but technically speaking, you can do that. So the juxtaposition, the Gemara says, I might have thought like this. Holuksiv lo silba shatniz gidilim tasalacha mandelo ishtiri kelaim legabe belevisha hu d'mechaybet mitzvah tzitzis. I might have thought like this. The juxtaposition teaches me the following: whoever is subject to the prohibition of shatniz has to wear tzitzis. V'hani kohanim hol v'ishtri klaim legabayu lo lechayvu. But both say kohanim, right? Kohanim are permitted to wear shatnez in their big day kuna. So because kohanim are permitted to wear shatnez, maybe they shouldn't be chayiv in tzitzis. Kamashmala nihid dari be'idan avoda below idan avoda lo ishtri. The Jewish Gemara says that is true. Kohanim are permitted to wear shatnez when? During the avoda, when they're wearing the kohanic vestments. But Kohanim are not permitted to wear shatnez when it's not the shas avoda, and because of that, they will be chayiv in tzitzis as well. Incredible. Hakol chayv b'tefillin, another beautiful case. Everyone is obligated in tefillin. Kohanim leviim Yisraelim. So the Gemara again says, Pshita. Okay, I got it. Everybody's chayiv in tefillin. So says the Gemara, no. I need a statement to teach that Kohanim are obligated in tefillin. Why? I would have thought, listen to this. Since the pasuk says that you will go ahead and tie them as a sign on your hand. Okay, and it'll be a sign on your right. Tefillin shad, tefillin shalosh. Called the isay b'mitzvah diyad, isay b'mitzvah derosh. I would have thought that the pasuk links the two to tell you that they are part of one cohesive mitzvah, and therefore whoever is obligated in shel yad is obligated in shel rosh. Therefore, v'hani kohanim hoil v'lesnu b'mitzvah yad. The most like kohanim do not have a mitzvah of the shel yad. This is wild. What does it mean? Kohanim don't have a mitzvah of the shel yad. Dichsev yilbash al bisaro shelo yehei davar chotzetz beino ubein bisaro. Both say the halacha is that when a kohen is doing the avoda, is doing big day kahuna, there could be nothing that interposes between the garment and his flesh. As such, a kohen was not permitted to wear his shel yad, his tefillin, during the avoda, because the shel yad would then interrupt between his flesh, between his skin, and the big day kahuna. So I might have thought that since he can't wear the shel yad, b'mitzvah derosh nami lo lechayvu, he shouldn't be chayav in the tefillin shel rosh as well. Kamash malon delo ma'akvi hadadi. Therefore, we'll say the halacha is that no, they are not ma'akev one on the other. They're not ma'akev. They are two independent mitzvahs. So we'll say that's how we pass in halacha l'maisa. That's why for some reason you only have a shel yad or a shel rosh, for whatever the reason, you would put on the one that you have even though you don't have the other. So the novelty of Rabbi says that even though, again, when the kohen is doing the avodah, he can't wear the shel yad because it interposes, he could still potentially wear the shel rosh. Kedisnan, tefillah shel yad ino ma'akeves shel rosh, the shel rosh ino ma'akeves shel yad. We'll say that is halacha l'maisa. Umashna diyad d'chsev yilbash al b'saro. Rosh nami ksev is sometimes nefes al rosh. 1 second. Why are you only making it sound like it's the tefillin shel yad that causes a problem to the kohen? The shel rosh also causes a problem. Why? Because the kohen has to wear the mitznefes, right? He has to wear the hat on his head. There's a hat that's part of the uniform, the attire, the outfit. Good. Hey, so ultimately, again, it's not just the shal yad that's problematic. The shal rosh is also problematic. Listen to this. The Gemara says, Tana, Sarah Hayamira ben Tzitzlim is nefes, Shesham maniach tefillin. Boss is actually incredible. No, actually, the way the Big Day Kahuna were created was in a way that there was actually a space in the area where you would put the shal rosh, that there was the ability, this is talking about by the Kohen Gadol, there was a space ultimately between the mitznefes and the tzitz. The tzitz was the golden plate, the mitznefes ultimately again was the hat, and there was a space in between that for the Kohen to put on the shal rosh. So amazingly enough, the shal rosh did not pose a chatzitza problem, only the shal yad. Therefore, the novelty of the ruling is everyone is chayv in tefillin, even Kohanim, and the chiddush being that even if a Kohen could only wear his shal rosh during the avoda, not the shal yad, he would still wear the shal rosh. Which also tells you something. And then for us, what that tells us is two incredible things. First of all, the incredible halacha that it sounds like Kohanim wore tefillin during avoda, which is quite fascinating. At least they wore a shal rosh, not a shal yad. But for our purposes, also it tells us that halacha l'maisa shal yad and shal rosh, two separate mitzvos, and therefore, even if you can only fulfill one and not the other, you do the one you can. Everybody is obligated in Tkei Shofar. Pshita, that's obvious. I need the Kohanim. Why? Meaning, I need the novelty of ears by the Kohanim. Because I would have thought, since the pasuk says it should be a Yom Trua, I would have thought what? Who is chayiv in Tkei Shofar and Rosh Hashanah? Someone for whom the blowing of the shofar is unique and novel. Notice that it only takes place on this one day. V'hani Kohanim hod isnu b'tkiya kulei shasa. Kohanim, they have Tkei Shofar the whole year. Dichsev utekatim bechatzosros al olosechem. The pasuk says you shall blow the chatzosros every single time you bring in olah. Se'ema lo lechayvu. So I would have thought again, since Kohanim quote unquote have Tkei Shofar every single day, therefore they're not obligated on Rosh Hashanah. Therefore again, Kamash Shalom, the halacha tells you that no, they're obligated in shofar. To which the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Mi dummy. Why would you compare those two? Hasam chatzosros, hacha shofar. But say, how can you even compare the cases? After all, again, by Rosh Hashanah it's a shofar, but by the olos, ultimately again it's chatzosros. So we'll stop over here for today. I'm going to leave you on that cliffhanger of a question, Emir Hashem, to be answered and continued b'sha'ah tova tomorrow. Shkoyach.